OK. Minister, let's get on to your brief now and talk about energy and climate change. How much is it going to cost to decarbonise Britain by 2050?
So there are various costs that are out there. Last year we spent about £7 billion on some of this agenda. And I think the really important thing is how we are getting there. So firstly, I would just point to our record. We are the first country to have halved emissions, but we've done this at the same time as growing the economy by 80%. And that is my priority, because we have to make sure that we can have cheap energy in this country. We have to make sure that we can have a competitive economy, that businesses can thrive. And yes, we do know that we are going to have to invest in the industries of the future, and that is what I'm focused on.
But the cost of it until 2050 is really relevant to this debate, isn't it? Because you've said £7 billion so far. Taxpayers are rightly concerned that they're having to pay a great deal of money to achieve a target that, in comparison to, say, China's emissions, makes the UK look like a saint. We've got less CO2 emissions now than we did in 1879. We account for less than 1% of global emissions. And you've talked about £7 billion worth of expenditure already. So what is the calculation? You must have an overall cost of a policy to 2050. You can't possibly come up with a policy that costs taxpayers that much money and not say what the bottom line figure is.
Look, so there are different costs that are out there, but it depends on how you do this. And I would say, if you look at all the steps that we've taken since I've been imposed, what we are doing is making sure that we can protect households from the worst costs. Because I think people do care about climate change, but as you say, they don't want to have costs heaped upon them when they know that we're only 1% of global emissions, and they can see that other countries are polluting a lot more. So we want to do this in a sensible way. But even in that £7 billion, Camilla, you know, some of that is on, for example, nuclear energy. A big chunk of that is on insulating people's homes. I think those are measures that people would support and things that we need to do over the long term anyway. But what I'm not going to stand here and say, like some of the other parties, is that there are no short-term costs to this agenda, which is why we have taken steps, and we're one of the only parties to be talking about this openly. We have taken steps to say we're going to do this in a measured way. We're going to move at the pace of public appetite when it comes to this agenda.